It started with a video. Just a quick text from my daughter, Mia, sent in the middle of a Monday afternoon. No context. Just the message, "Dad, you need to see this." She was never dramatic, never the type to stir things up. She was 12, smart, observant, and more tuned into the world than I ever gave her credit for. So when I saw the clip loading on my phone, I didn't brush it off. I sat down in my work truck, paused the job I was about to clock into, and hit play. It was filmed from the upstairs hallway, just over the banister railing. You could see straight down into our kitchen. The lighting was warm, familiar. I saw my wife, Sarah, standing at the counter with her mother and brother. All of them laughing, smiling, like any other weekend afternoon. Then I heard it. "David," her mom said with a scoff. "That man couldn't fix a sandwich without instructions." Laughter. Actual laughter. Her brother chimed in, "Don't forget who's paying all the bills. You'd think we were living in his house the way he struts around." More laughter. And then Sarah, my wife. She laughed, shook her head, and said something that lodged itself in my chest like a nail. "Honestly, he tries. But he's just, not much of a man. He's good with Mia. I'll give him that. But that's about it." They all laughed again. My breath caught. I paused the video, rewound it, watched it again. I couldn't move. Because there it was, clear as day, my own wife, the woman I shared a bed with, stood beside, built a life with, casually tearing me apart like I was some sad joke passed around a coffee table. And my daughter had heard it. That part crushed me more than anything. She must have been upstairs, probably going to grab a book or her tablet, and stopped when she heard my name, heard what they said, had the presence of mind to record it, and the courage to send it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just sat there, staring out the windshield, trying to reconcile the woman in that video with the one who kissed me goodbye that very morning. The one who told me, "Don't forget to grab milk." As if everything was fine. As if she hadn't already started pulling the floor out from under me with every word she said behind my back. And Mia, she saw through it all. That night, I didn't say anything to Sarah. I couldn't. Not yet. I tucked Mia in like I always did. Sat at the edge of her bed, her favorite book in my lap, but neither of us said much. When I got up to leave, she whispered, "You okay, Dad?" I nodded. "I will be." Because something inside me had shifted. I didn't know where it was going yet, what I'd do, what I'd say, but I knew this. Once respect is broken in silence, it doesn't come back through noise. I didn't sleep that night. The house was too quiet, too deceptive in its calm. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a whisper I hadn't caught. Every familiar corner suddenly looked like a place where trust used to live. I laid there with Sarah breathing steady beside me, her back turned, like nothing had happened, like the floor of my world hadn't cracked open. Around 2 a.m., I got out of bed and walked downstairs. The kitchen was dark, still warm with the scent of the roast she'd made earlier. That same space, the one I built the cabinets in, the one where we danced barefoot once during a blackout, had now become the setting of the most casual betrayal I'd ever witnessed. I stood there for a long time, arms folded, staring at the place where she laughed. The words kept echoing. "He's just, not much of a man." Not in anger, not even with bitterness. Just pure dismissal. And that made it worse. Because you can forgive anger. You can make sense of frustration. But you don't come back from indifference. I finally sat at the kitchen table and pulled out my notebook. The one I kept tucked in the drawer where the takeout menus used to be. I wrote. They laughed. And I stood in the silence they left behind. Not as a man they feared. Not as a man they respected. But as the punchline to a joke they didn't think I'd ever hear. The next morning, Sarah acted like nothing happened. She kissed my cheek. She poured my coffee. She asked if I had time to pick up a few things on my way home from work. And I answered her. Calm, measured, like I didn't know that just days ago, she'd cut me open with a sentence. I didn't bring it up. Not yet. Because betrayal has a rhythm. And I wasn't going to interrupt it before I understood the full melody. Instead, I dropped Mia off at school and watched her walk inside with her backpack bouncing on her shoulders, the way she always did. Before she closed the car door, she paused. "Dad, yeah, I didn't want to hurt you with that video. I just didn't think you'd believe me if I told you." I swallowed hard. "I know, sweetheart." She bit her lip. "Are you mad at Mom?" I looked her in the eye. "I'm not mad, but I am disappointed." Mia nodded. She understood more than most adults I knew. When I got to work, I couldn't focus. The usual routine, tools in hand, grease under the nails, the rhythmic sounds of engines and machines, it all felt distant. Like I was moving through someone else's day. So I took a break and called my older brother, Luke. He picked up on the second ring. "What's going on?" he asked. No hello needed. Just instinct. I told him everything. The video. The words. Mia's text. My silence. He didn't say anything for a beat. Then, "Jesus, man. Yeah. You want my advice?" he asked. "Always. Watch what she does next. If she felt safe enough to say that with family, she said worse. And she'll keep saying it if she thinks you'll never speak up." I nodded slowly, the truth of it sinking in. "She doesn't know I know," I said. "Then that's your power right now," he replied. "You get to decide what happens next. Just don't wait too long. That kind of rot only spreads." We hung up, and I stared at my call log like it might offer more than just timestamps. That evening, I came home early. Sarah was in the living room, scrolling her phone, laughing at something on the screen. She looked up. "You're back early." "Yeah," I said. "Wanted to be home." She smiled, then went right back to whatever entertained her more than I did. I went upstairs. Checked Mia's room. She was on her tablet, headphones in. She looked up and gave me a small wave. I nodded back. Then I walked into the master bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. I pulled out my phone, opened the video again, and watched. One more time. Not because I needed to hurt myself again, but because I needed to remember. To see it clearly before I confronted the lie head-on. Because tomorrow, the silence would end. Morning felt colder than usual. Not because of the weather, but because of the weight I carried walking into that kitchen. Sarah was there again, same spot, leaned against the counter with her smoothie in one hand and phone in the other. Routine made her predictable. Comfort made her careless. I stood in the doorway a second longer than necessary. She finally noticed me and smiled like I was still hers. "You want eggs?" "No," I said evenly. "I want honesty." That stopped her. The smile faded slowly. "What do you mean?" I stepped forward, placed my phone on the counter, and pressed play. The video clip. That video clip. The one Mia had filmed. Her mother's words. Her brother's laughter. Her own voice, mocking me like I was some punchline in a sitcom nobody told me I'd been cast in. The sound filled the room. Sarah didn't reach for the phone. Didn't stop the video. She just stared at it. Or maybe through it. I couldn't tell. When it ended, the silence felt thicker than before. "I got that from our daughter," I said quietly. She heard it all. Upstairs. And she still had more respect for me than the woman I married did. Sarah looked down, then slowly set her smoothie on the counter. I didn't know she was listening. "That's your defense?" She swallowed. "It was a joke." "No," I said, shaking my head. "A joke has a punchline. What I heard was a pattern." She didn't deny it. Just stood there, lips pressed into a line. "You've been doing this a while, haven't you?" I continued. Little digs. Little jabs. Talking about me like I'm some outdated furniture you keep around because it's too heavy to move. "David, that's not fair." "No," I cut in. "What's not fair is being loyal to someone who dismantles me behind closed doors. What's not fair is giving everything to this family only to be laughed at like I'm the help who doesn't charge." Her eyes flashed. "It was one moment. It was one recording," I said, my voice steady. "That's not the same thing." We stood in that kitchen for a long moment, me seeing her clearly, maybe for the first time, and her finally seeing that I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. "I've done everything I can to be a good man in this house," I said. "And maybe I'm not perfect, but I've been present. I've shown up. I've worked every hour I could, fixed what I knew how to, and tried like hell to keep us together." She said nothing. And that silence, that told me everything. "I'm not walking out today," I added. "Not yet, but I am moving into the guest room. And we are having a real conversation tonight, after Mia's asleep, about what this marriage actually is." She nodded once, stiff and mechanical, like someone who knew the show was over and the lights had come on. I left the room, grabbed a few clothes, and moved into the room that used to be my home office before the desk got replaced by laundry baskets. That night, Mia asked if everything was okay. I crouched next to her bed and tucked her in gently. "Things are hard right now," I said. "But hard doesn't mean over. It just means some truths are finally stepping into the light." She looked at me for a moment. "You're not leaving, are you?" "I won't go far," I said. "Not from you." She nodded, closed her eyes. Downstairs, I heard Sarah moving around the kitchen. Dishes. Cabinets. The clatter of someone pretending their world hadn't just cracked open. Later that night, we sat across from each other in the living room. No TV, no wine, no laughs. Just truth. "I don't hate you," I told her. But I don't think you respect me either. And I don't know if a marriage can survive without that. She didn't fight me, didn't cry, she just looked tired, like something inside her had been exposed and couldn't crawl back into hiding. And for the first time, I realized, she wasn't the villain, but she was the reason I'd been bleeding, and I wasn't going to keep handing her the knife. That night, after the conversation, she didn't come upstairs. I heard her pacing, heard her open the fridge twice, pour herself a drink, then another. No yelling, no slammed doors. Just the quiet unraveling of someone who knew the curtains had finally been pulled back. In the guest room, I lay flat on the stiff mattress, staring at the ceiling. The plaster lines formed vague patterns, nothing worth remembering, but just enough to stare at when sleep wouldn't come. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the same way. That red-hot, slap-you-in-the-face kind of fury had faded. What was left now was heavier, more settled. Like grief, but for something I hadn't buried yet. Because a marriage doesn't die in one night. It dies in degrees. And I'd been feeling the cold long before that video ever showed me where the warmth went. The next morning, Sarah tried to return to routine. She handed me a cup of coffee like always, but this time, her hand shook a little. "Thanks," I said, taking it. "We're not pretending, remember?" Her hand dropped back to her side. Habit. I sat at the table while she hovered, unsure whether to join me or keep moving. "I made an appointment," she said suddenly. I looked up. "Therapist," she clarified. "For us. If you want." That threw me. Not because I didn't think she'd try to fix it, but because I wasn't sure why she was trying now. Was it guilt? Was it love? Was it just the fear of facing herself without a buffer? "I'll think about it," I said honestly. "But you need to know something." She nodded. "I'm not doing this to patch things up for appearance's sake. I'm not showing up in a room so we can lie better to each other. If we do this, we do it. All the way. No deflecting. No excuses." She swallowed. "Okay." I finished my coffee and left for work. The house didn't feel like home anymore. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Later that day, during lunch break, I pulled out my journal from the glove box and wrote, "There's no thunder. When trust dies. Just the quiet click of a door closing. In a house you no longer recognize." The following week passed in cautious steps. Mia kept close to me. Always near when I got home, always watching. She didn't ask questions, but her eyes did. I answered them the only way I knew how, by showing up, by cooking dinner even when Sarah sat in the same room and the air felt too thick to swallow. We didn't fight. We just existed. Parallel. Like roommates caught in a shared memory they couldn't afford to burn. Then, Friday night, Sarah knocked on the guest room door. I opened it, unsure what I'd find. She stood there holding a manila folder. "What's that?" I asked. She handed it over. Inside were letters. Old ones. From before we got married. Notes I'd written her. Things she used to keep taped inside her journal. I recognized every line, every signature. "I found them in the closet," she said. "Didn't know if you remembered writing all that." "I remember." She looked down at her hands. "You used to love me like I was worth something. And you used to act like I was," I said, not to wound her, just to be honest. She nodded. "Then, I want to go to therapy. Even if you don't." That surprised me. "You think it'll help?" "I think I need to understand how I became someone who laughed at my husband behind his back." That stopped me. For the first time, I saw something crack in her, something real. "Okay," I said. "Start with that." She left, and I stood there with those old letters in my hand. The man who wrote them, he wasn't gone. He was just tired of giving everything to someone who forgot the sound of his heart. I opened the journal and wrote, "Maybe forgiveness isn't taking someone back. Maybe it's simply watching them learn what they did to you, and choosing not to hate them, while they figure out if they can live with themselves." That night, I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. But I slept. And sometimes, that's the first step. Therapy started on a Wednesday. Neutral ground, neutral chairs, neutral colors, like the whole room was designed to take the edge off everything sharp. The counselor, a calm woman with a notebook and a face that didn't flinch, introduced herself as Marlene and said she'd seen it all. I believed her. Sarah sat across from me, legs crossed, back too straight. I'd known that posture for years. It meant she was bracing, either for impact or for control. Marlene opened simply. "Why are you here?" Sarah glanced at me before speaking. "Because I hurt him. And I don't fully understand why." I appreciated the honesty in that, at least. Not trying to hide behind misunderstanding or bad timing. Marlene turned to me. "David, I'm here, I said carefully, because I need to know if respect can grow back after it's been starved. The rest of that first session was slow, cautious. We didn't jump into the video. We didn't dissect the moment in the kitchen. Instead, Marlene wanted us to talk about how we used to be. It was strange, reliving the early days of our relationship while knowing how far we drifted. Sarah spoke about how she admired my work ethic, how I was solid when she wasn't. I mentioned her energy, how she used to light up every room, how it pulled me in like gravity. But somewhere along the way, the pull became a push. Marlene listened, nodded, and at the end said, "Next time, let's talk about patterns. Not events. Patterns." I left with more questions than answers, but at least we were moving. That night, back at the house, Sarah lingered in the hallway as I passed her on the way to the guest room. "You think it's too late?" she asked quietly. I stopped, looked at her. "I think late isn't the same as impossible," I said. She nodded, bit her lip like she always did when she was fighting tears. "I'm not asking you to move back in," she said. "I'm asking you to keep showing up." "I'm not walking away," I said. "But I won't keep standing still." The second session came a few days later. Marlene was ready this time. She asked about the video directly. "What was said in that kitchen," she said to Sarah, "wasn't just a joke. Do you understand that?" Sarah nodded, slower this time. "I do now." "And why did you say it?" Marlene pressed. Sarah looked down at her hands, then up at me. "Because I was angry. Not at David. At myself. I felt like I was failing at everything, work, motherhood, the marriage, and instead of admitting that, I turned it on him. That hurt to hear. But it also made a little more sense. I thought mocking him made me look like I had control," she continued. "I was so used to performing for my family, for people who never saw him the way I did when we were alone." Marlene nodded. "And what about now?" "I don't know if he'll ever look at me the same," Sarah whispered. I leaned forward. "I probably won't," I said. "But that's not the same as saying I can't love you again. It just means the love will have to be different. Grown, not owed." Back in the truck that night, I opened the journal and wrote, "When someone laughs at you, and you stay, it changes you. But when you walk away, and they ask you to return, not for comfort, but for truth, you learn what forgiveness looks like, when it finally has boundaries." That evening, Mia handed me a drawing she made at school. It was just the three of us, me, her, and Sarah, standing in front of our house, the sky scribbled with stars. But what hit me wasn't the image. It was the title written in shaky little pencil lines at the top. "When we talk." I looked at her. "Why that title?" "Because you're not mad anymore," she said. "You're just talking. That means something, right?" "Yeah, honey," I said, pulling her in close. "It means everything." It wasn't a straight line, this healing thing. There were nights I still caught her looking at me like a stranger, and I didn't know how to look back. There were moments when the air between us felt like it remembered more than either of us wanted to say. But there were small things too, unexpected signs that maybe the foundation wasn't as ruined as it felt. Like Saturday morning, when I came downstairs and found breakfast already on the table. She'd made my eggs the way I liked them, over medium, toast buttered just to the edge. She didn't say much. Just poured my coffee and sat. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was intentional. Mia joined us a few minutes later. We ate together, quiet but not cold. Like a family learning how to walk again after forgetting they ever knew how. Afterward, I stepped outside to fix a hinge on the backyard gate, one of the many little things I'd neglected while the house had turned into something I didn't want to be inside of. I was crouched near the latch when I heard the sliding door open. Sarah stood there, holding 2 beers. It was barely noon. She gave a half smile. "I figured if we're going to talk, you might need this." I took it. She sat on the step beside me. We didn't say anything at first. Then, I watched that video again. I kept my eyes on the hinge. "I didn't delete it," she continued. "I wanted to. God, I wanted to pretend it wasn't as bad as it sounded. But it was." I finally looked at her. "I wasn't trying to ruin you," she said. "I was trying to protect the version of me that felt small." "That's the thing, Sarah," I said. "You weren't small to me. Not once. You were just unreachable." She closed her eyes, leaned back against the house. "I used to think I had to keep my pride in public, even if it meant tearing someone else down." I nodded slowly. "And I used to think staying silent made me strong." We both sipped our beers. The afternoon sun peeked through the slats of the fence, streaking the yard in broken light. "Do you believe people can really change?" she asked. "I think they can start choosing better," I said. "One choice at a time." We sat like that for a while, Later that day, Mia and I went for a drive. Just her and me, windows down, some old rock song on the radio. She didn't say much, but she didn't have to. Her feet were on the dash, head tilted back, eyes closed, trusting me to take her somewhere that felt normal. I pulled into the parking lot of the old drive-in movie spot, now shut down but still standing. She smiled. "You remembered." "I remember everything," I said. "Especially when you're quiet." We sat on the hood and talked. About school. About the little fights between friends that feel like the end of the world when you're 12. Then she looked at me, serious all of a sudden. "Do you still love her?" I looked at the empty screen ahead of us. "I think love doesn't go away. But sometimes it changes shape." Mia considered that. "Like when a balloon deflates but you can still hold it." "Exactly," I said. She nodded. "I hope it inflates again. But not the same way." When we got home, I tucked her in as usual. She hugged me tighter than normal. Then, just as I was closing the door, she whispered, "Thanks for staying." I walked to the guest room, sat at the desk, and opened my journal. Still a few pages left. I wrote, "Healing isn't loud. It's eggs made right. It's beers on the porch. It's a kid asking hard questions. Because she trusts your answers. It's loving someone, after the laughter fades. Not because they deserve it yet, but because you do." I closed the book and looked out the window. Tomorrow wasn't promised, but it felt possible. The third therapy session was different. Marlene asked us to talk about fear this time, not anger, not betrayal, but the quiet weight that sits under it all. The thing you never name until someone asks the right question in the right tone. "I want you both," she said, "to answer this honestly. What were you afraid of, before all this began to break?" Sarah went first. She sat with her fingers laced tightly in her lap, knuckles pale, voice soft. "I was afraid of being unimportant," she said. "Of waking up in a life that felt small. I had this picture in my head of what success looked like, what we should look like, and when it didn't match, I started resenting things I shouldn't have." I nodded, surprised she could even put that into words. She glanced at me. "David never tried to hold me back, but sometimes I think I made him the enemy just so I wouldn't have to admit I was disappointed in myself." Marlene didn't speak. Neither did I. She let the silence stretch, let it become part of the answer. Then she turned to me. "David?" I cleared my throat. I was afraid of becoming invisible. Of being so steady, so constant, that I'd just disappear into the wallpaper. I thought if I kept showing up, she'd see me. But the truth is, I think I stopped seeing myself. Sarah's eyes welled up, but she didn't cry. She just listened, really listened. That was new. After the session, we didn't speak on the drive home. Just sat with what had been said, letting the words settle in places we'd both ignored for too long. When we got back, Sarah walked into the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of water. She handed one to me and leaned against the counter. "I do see you now," she said. I nodded, unsure what to say in return. It wasn't that I didn't believe her, it's just that forgiveness, like respect, can't be bought with a single sentence. It has to be earned through consistent truth. But it was something. That night, I moved back into the bedroom. Not as a symbol, not because everything was healed, but because we were showing up. Day by day, word by word. We lay there in silence, not touching, not talking, just existing in the same space without pretending anymore. And weirdly, that was more intimate than anything we'd done in months. The next morning, I made breakfast. Eggs, toast, orange juice. I even folded the napkins like Sarah used to when we had guests over, back when we still tried. Mia came down first, sleep in her eyes, hair wild. "You cook now?" she asked with a sleepy grin. I smiled, just showing off. Sarah followed a minute later. She paused in the doorway when she saw the table, like she didn't expect this version of the morning. But she sat down. No awkwardness. Just quiet gratitude. We ate together. Not like everything was fine, but like everything wasn't broken anymore. Afterward, I drove Mia to school, and we stopped for gas on the way. While I filled the tank, she handed me a crumpled note she'd written in pencil on lined paper. I opened it. "Dear Dad, thanks for not yelling. Thanks for listening. Thanks for staying, even when it hurt. I love you." It wasn't poetry, but it broke something soft inside me that had needed to be broken. After I dropped her off, I pulled into an empty lot near a hardware store and opened my journal. I sat there for 20 minutes, thinking about all the ways this journey hadn't gone the way I imagined. Then I wrote, "Respect doesn't return, because you ask for it. It returns when the people who broke it choose silence over shame, truth over ego, and time over quick fixes. She sees me now. And more importantly, so do I. I closed the journal and rested it on the dash. Not every story ends in flames. Some just rebuild slow, beam by beam. It was the end of the month when the in-laws came back into the picture. Sunday dinner. Sarah said her mom and brother were coming by, like it was nothing. Like the last time I'd heard their voices, they weren't shredding my name for sport in our kitchen. I can cancel if it's too soon, she offered, folding towels on the couch without meeting my eyes. I took a long breath. No, I said. Let's do it. Because at some point, the wounds have to be seen by the people who caused them. And if we were really rebuilding this life, I wasn't going to pretend for anyone anymore, not even her family. The doorbell rang at 4:03. I remember because I was staring at the clock, gripping the back of a chair, reminding myself not to flinch. Her mom walked in first, cloying perfume, tight smile, fake warmth. David, she said like it was a surprise I was still here. Eleanor, I nodded. Her brother, Paul, followed, hands in his pockets, already scanning the room like he wanted to be somewhere else. Probably any place where consequences didn't exist. Dinner started quiet, awkward. Mia kept looking between all of us, picking at her mashed potatoes. Sarah tried to keep the conversation moving, school updates, the weather, some light gossip from her office. I didn't say much. Just watched. Listened. Then Eleanor said it. Oh, Sarah told us you two are working things out, she said, smiling over her wine. That's sweet. I always said you were a forgiving one. Paul snorted into his glass. I set my fork down gently. You know, I said, calm but direct, it's strange to hear the word forgiving from someone who never once apologized. Silence. Sarah froze, eyes wide. Eleanor blinked. I'm sorry. That's funny, I said. Because the last time I heard you speak my name, you were laughing about how useless I am. And your son here was chiming in like it was open mic night. Paul leaned back, defensive. It was just a joke, man. No, I said firmly. It was cowardice. And I wasn't going to say anything, but then my daughter heard it. She saw it. She recorded it. Now they both looked like they'd been slapped. I continued. Mia trusted me enough to show me what you said. And you should know, your words didn't just hurt me. They changed how she sees you. Sarah finally spoke. He's right. Eleanor turned toward her, shocked. You told him. I didn't have to, Sarah said. Mia did. And she was braver than all of us. Paul muttered, all right, this is getting blown out of. No, I snapped. It's getting addressed. Finally. Marlene had said healing sometimes means saying the thing you've been swallowing for too long. So I said it. I've worked too hard, loved too deep, and stayed too damn steady to be spoken about like some background noise. I don't need your praise. But I won't stand in your presence if you treat me like I'm disposable. Mia was quiet, but then she looked at her grandma and said, you were mean. 3 words. The truth, delivered by a 12-year-old with more courage than most grown-ups. Eleanor's eyes glossed over. Whether it was guilt or shame, I didn't care. She cleared her throat. I didn't know you heard that, sweetheart. I did, Mia said. And I didn't like it. Paul stood up. I think we should go. No one stopped him. Eleanor stood, slower, looked between Sarah and me. I'll call. You should, Sarah said. Not just for me. When the door shut behind them, the house finally exhaled. We cleaned up in silence. Dishes, glasses, folded napkins. Then Sarah said, thank you. For what? For not sparing them, but not sinking to their level either. I nodded. They needed to hear it. She touched my hand. So did I. That night, I wrote in my journal with a steadier hand. Truth doesn't always burn bridges. Sometimes it just shines a light on the ones you were never meant to walk across again. Tonight, the silence broke, not in anger, but in clarity, and what's left standing is something finally worth building on. We didn't hear from them after that. No calls, no awkward texts, no passive-aggressive group chat comments. Just silence. The kind that usually comes when people realize the room no longer bends for them. And honestly, it was a gift. A quiet house became our normal again. No eggshells underfoot. No pretending to laugh at jokes that weren't funny. Just the slow return of something we hadn't felt in months. Peace. Sarah and I kept going to therapy. Every week, like clockwork. Some sessions hurt like hell. Some felt like progress. But each one chipped away at the wall we'd built between us. And beneath the damage, we started finding each other again. Not as we were, but as we really were. Flawed, tired, still standing. One Thursday night, after a particularly heavy session, we drove in silence for most of the ride home. Then she reached over, laid her hand gently on my knee. "I meant what I said in there," she murmured. "I didn't know I'd made you feel invisible. I was just so focused on being seen myself." I nodded. "I know. I don't want to be that person anymore." I looked at her, really looked. "You're not," I said. "Not if you keep choosing different." We pulled into the driveway just as a light rain started falling. The house glowed softly from the porch lamp, like it was exhaling with us. Inside, we found Mia curled up on the couch with a blanket and her tablet, the TV playing quietly in the background. "Therapy again?" she asked, looking up. "Yep," I said. "Did you fight?" "Nope." "Then it worked." That made Sarah laugh, the good kind, the one that didn't carry weight or wear a mask. Later that night, after Mia was asleep, we found ourselves on the back porch. No drinks. No music. Just us and the rain tapping lightly against the patio roof. I leaned back, eyes closed. "You know what hurts most?" She turned her head, listening. "That the version of me you mocked, that was me trying. That was the man who didn't quit, who fixed things, who showed up, who carried more than his share without asking for applause." Her breath caught. "I see that now," she whispered. "And I'm ashamed I didn't see it sooner." "Good," I said. "You should be. But don't live there. Learn from it." She reached over and gently took my hand. "I never deserved how much of yourself you gave me," she said. "Maybe not," I replied. "But I gave it anyway. That's on me. What matters now is what we build moving forward." She nodded, tears brimming but not falling. "Do you think we'll make it?" she asked. I thought about it, then shrugged. "I think we'll try. And maybe that's the most honest answer I've got." I went to bed that night not with closure, but with calm. And that's something I'd stopped hoping for months ago. The next morning, I sat alone with my coffee and cracked open the journal. 1 page left, but I wasn't ready to write it yet. Not quite. Instead, I flipped back through it, reading entry after entry, watching the descent, the fire, the turning point. It read like someone drowning, then clawing their way up, then finding shore, then building a cabin on that shore with their own damn hands. That evening, I helped Mia with her homework. We sat shoulder to shoulder at the dining room table while she explained long division and I pretended to remember how it worked. Sarah cooked quietly in the background. No tension, just noise that felt like home again. And for the first time since that video, I didn't wonder what they thought of me. I didn't replay their voices. Because now, their words didn't echo anymore. They just faded. And mine finally meant something. I wrote the final entry the same night Mia came downstairs in her pajamas and asked if we could all watch a movie together. No occasion, no reason, just that sweet, innocent craving for closeness only kids know how to ask for so simply. We said yes. We watched The Iron Giant, one of her favorites. Sarah sat beside me, not touching but close enough. Mia curled up with a bowl of popcorn, quoting lines before they happened. There was something about that moment, the light of the TV flickering across her face, the warmth of the room, the lack of pretense, that made everything else quiet down. That old video, the mockery, the shame, it wasn't gone. But it wasn't loud anymore. After Mia was asleep, I went out back with the journal, a blanket, and a beer. The night was cool, but not cold. Still, gentle, like the sky was giving me permission to breathe a little deeper. I flipped to the last page. The final one. And this time, I didn't pause. I didn't overthink. I just wrote. She laughed behind my back. They all did. And for a while, it gutted me. Not because their words were true, but because they were spoken by the mouths I trusted most. But here's what they didn't know. You can mock a man, and still not break him. You can strip him of pride, and he'll build something sturdier. You can make a joke out of his name, and he'll still sign it with dignity. I was never weak. I was quiet. And now I'm louder in the right ways. Not with noise, but with presence. Not with rage, but with truth. I stayed, not because I had to, but because I chose to heal. In front of the people who once hurt me. And somehow, in the ashes of their laughter, I found something that finally sounds like peace. I closed the journal, let it rest on my lap for a moment, the weight of it no longer heavy, just real. Inside the house, I could hear Sarah putting away dishes. The soft clink of ceramic against wood, a sound that used to make me feel invisible. Now, it just sounded like life. I stood up, stretched, and walked inside. She looked up from the kitchen, hair tied back, tired but genuine. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I'm good. And for the first time since Mia's text, I meant it.